Hey folks, how are you all? Do you know something? I actually haven't did a pre-recorded video in a long time, and today I'm going to do one. And I want to take you back. I want to take you back to 1992, Halloween night, 1992. There was a program that was aired on the BBC called Ghost Watch. I actually remember it, and I can actually remember watching it, and I was absolutely terrified, absolutely terrified. This program has caused so much controversy. It caused, unfortunately, someone taking their own life, as you will hear. What we're going to look at today, this video has came from AMTV, which is Adam Martin. And Adam Martin is brilliant. He does a lot of stuff about videos and stuff about TV and TV history. So check out his channel. I will put a link. But before we go into this today, I wonder if you would please think about doing this for me. It's totally free, and more important, if you could give the video a thumbs up, it would be greatly appreciated as it pushes the channel out there. So, what I want you to do, I want you to sit back, I want you to relax, and I want to take you back to 1992. Now, this video has been heavily edited because BBC are a nightmare for copyright, and Adam has really cut this down. So let's go back and see what all the fuss was about. Now, by the way, folks, during this, I will go small because I am aware a lot of people watch YouTube now on their phones, so I will make the video larger for those people. So let's have a look at this. Right, here we go. There you go. It's talking about the copyright and stuff. The video contains discussion of paranormal, supernatural, brief mentions of suicide.
It was Halloween night in the year 1992. Whilst children went door to door trick-or-treating in the hopes of bagging some tasty sweets, viewers up late were in for their own kind of shock. On the nation's flagship channel, BBC One, a special programme was due to air, one that promised to unravel mysteries and provide footage that some audiences may find a little disturbing. From 9:25, for the next 90 minutes, 11 million Brits would be transfixed to their television screens, presented with a programme that in almost every aspect looked as though it was happening before their very eyes. It was a programme that would cause fear, an uproar, and even led to some pretty horrific consequences. This is the story, the impact and the legacy of Ghost Watch. We begin at the end of the 80s and the dawn of the 90s, and a strand of one-off plays and dramas build under the banner of Screen One. A sequel series of sorts to the BBC's long-running Play for Today strand, Screen One aimed to build upon the groundwork laid by its older sibling, Screen Two, which had been delivering high-quality dramas on BBC Two for some time. By the time of both channels' rebrands in early 1991, Screen One had delivered the goods, in the form of positively reviewed and even some award-winning programmes, such as Newshounds featuring Adrian Edmondson and The Accountant starring Alfred Molina. To cap off the fourth series of Screen One, writer Stephen Volk was tasked with a special programme that would air on Halloween night 1992. The concept was simple: showcase an investigation into a normal, everyday home that was supposedly haunted by some form of ghost. This may sound like a commonplace form of TV programme today, but back in the early 90s the concept, especially in Britain, was still very much in its infancy. To front the programme, Volk wanted well-known BBC talent, faces that the audience would instantly recognise and cling on to for reassurance throughout the transmission. For the lead presenter, Michael Parkinson was chosen. Parky seemed like the perfect choice, a natural in front of the cameras and a seasoned pro when it came to interviewing people and just leading a TV programme in general. He was a calm, knowledgeable and reassuring presence to have on set, so his selection for a show like this, which by nature may cause fear amongst viewers, seems apt. Joining him in the studio was Mike Smith, known as Smithy to many. He'd been a familiar face on the Beeb for some time, having co-presented on Breakfast Time as well as heavy hitters like Top of the Pops and The Late Late Breakfast Show, even being one of the main presenters to front coverage of Live Aid for the BBC in 1985. He was also a racing driver and a qualified helicopter pilot. Avoiding a near-fatal crash in 1988, his passenger would soon become his wife and would also be involved with the Ghostwatch project. Sarah Green was a face known to many millions, but particularly to children. She was one of the main presenters on Blue Peter from...
I can actually remember that helicopter accident. It was very, very serious, and the two of them were very, very lucky to be alive. Sarah Green had really, really bad injuries, but she recovered.
1980 to 1983 and had gone on to front many a children's programme such as Saturday Superstore and Going Live. She had a warm, friendly presence, someone children felt that they could easily become their best friend. She was approachable, compassionate and understanding, and it seemed an unlikely choice that she would play such a main part in such a programme as Ghostwatch. Her role would be as the main BBC presence on the ground inside the haunted house, meeting and talking with family members and being first witness to any strange goings-on. Finally, we have Craig Charles, because why not? Craig had become a familiar face on telly, not least for his main role as Dave Lister in the sci-fi comedy series Red Dwarf, which had been airing on the BBC since 1988. A great personality in his own right, Craig would also be present out on location, but would mostly stay outside of the house, chatting with onlookers and interviewees. With everything in place, Ghostwatch was lined up and set to be transmitted at 9:25 PM on BBC One on Halloween night. But days before that scheduled broadcast, it was at risk of being pulled altogether. Getting nervous over how the broadcast would be received, higher-ups at the BBC discussed pulling Ghostwatch entirely. However, those radical nerves subsided and a compromise was reached. As to what that was, we'll touch on that a little bit later. But all was back on track. 9:25 PM rolled around on the 31st of October, and the nation sat down and tuned in to Ghostwatch.
Now, on BBC One, Screen One presents an unusual and sometimes disturbing film marking Halloween. Over the centuries, there have been countless reports of ghosts and ghouls, but the line between fact and fiction has always been unclear. Using the modern idiom of the outside broadcast, Michael Parkinson, Sarah Green, Mike Smith and Craig Charles star in Ghostwatch.
The programme you're about to watch is a unique live investigation of the supernatural.
Michael Parkinson dutifully introduces the programme, and our main setting of the house on Foxhill Drive. We see some footage recorded some months prior of two young girls settling down to sleep. That is until the...
Can I just say something here? I'm sorry to pause it. This reminds me greatly of the story behind this reminds me of the Enfield haunting, where it was a suburban sort of council house. I don't know if this was a council house or not, doesn't really matter. But this is what this reminds me of, this story, which was actually used in one of the Conjuring films as well. This is what this reminds me of.
Early hours when something horrific takes place. We're introduced to Dr. Lynn Pascoe, an expert in such ghostly matters, who's going to be Parky's main co-panelist throughout the night. We see Craig Charles out on location, being his typical jovial self, implying that perhaps he's not quite convinced at the supposed spooky goings-on.
And she's going to take us through the whole spine-tingling story.
He then passes on to Mike Smith, who's helping to helm the phone lines for Ghostwatch, taking calls from people up and down the country who wish to share their own experiences. The phone number is shown on screen numerous times, prompting viewers to get in touch. Before we enter the house on Foxhill Drive, we see some of the kit that the presenters will be working with, including an infrared camera, something that was very state-of-the-art back in 1992. Sarah, together with a cameraman and sound engineer, enter the property, meeting Mum Pam and her two girls, Suzanne and Kim.
But I was sure.
Okay, so Michael Parkinson, he was based in the studio. Your other man was out in the outside talking to people, taking so-called accounts. The other guy, he was on the phones. And by the way, that phone number, which was used, which will be revealed in the video probably later, was used on many occasions by the BBC in those days. It was used for TV programs, like the children's TV programs, like whatever ones were on the Saturday morning. Then it was a familiar phone number, so just remember that.
I could see a figure standing behind, against the wall, just by the curtain.
After some time in the studio and taking viewer calls, we return to the house, where 15 minutes in, Sarah gets her first taste of the strange goings-on. Or does she? So, the first scare is a prank, conducted by Craig Charles, giving Sarah a fright. It's a good gag to set up what's to come, using Craig's jovialness and lack of seriousness regarding the events of the programme to lure viewers into some false sense of security. We learn more about some of the strange occurrences, including a thudding sound heard by all in the home, ultimately referring to the originator of this sound as pipes.
So afterwards, whenever Kim heard something, she'd say, "It's pipes."
Who Kim has reportedly seen hiding in a cupboard under the staircase and going off her drawing, looks pretty horrific. Pam talks more about this particular room and her experiences of being trapped within it, supposedly with pipes inside.
I felt this man in there with me.
What makes it more emotional is that any attempts Pam made to raise these goings-on with either her local council or even local news and television resulted in ridicule and sensationalism, a trait that still very much would occur today. Back in the studio, Dr. Pascoe shows us some footage she took of the girls coming in for various tests, with one audio recording being played back, revealing a rather disturbing revelation.
Oh dear God, Susan.
It's implied that this voice is the voice of pipes, possessing the girls and speaking through them. The fact that there's no visuals, instead we only have the revolving reels of tape to go off, arguably makes the whole moment feel even more unnerving.
Face of that girl with these extraordinary marks on them.
We add a new element into things with a satellite call with Dr. Silvestri, an American who casts extreme doubt into the whole story, infuriating Pascoe.
Lynn, you ought to be selling crystals on Venice Beach or a palm reading. Counselor?
Back at the house, all seems calm and quiet. Not much of the supernatural going on. There are small things, though, including some revelations from Sarah's crew.
And I noticed early my watch had stopped.
What time? When?
Just before we went on air.
Just over halfway through the film's runtime, the first major discovery inside the house is revealed.
Now, can you see this?
I certainly can, clearly.
Well, there's no way it could have got there.
This odd occurrence is followed by some issues with the taps, as we see Sarah ever so slightly start to show signs of some fear. As more calls come through back in the studio, Parky is seemingly becoming less and less convinced of the whole premise about ghosts, and his exasperation towards some of these callers becomes less and less subtle.
Serious calls, please. The lines are still open.
In Fox Hill Drive, Sarah starts hearing various strange noises, and when she tries to find the source, the girls run in declaring that Pipes is here. As Sarah is still unable to find the source of the thudding, the dialogue between her and her colleagues back in the studio becomes more and more frantic, starting to show the cracks in what would normally be a professional broadcast.
Sarah, stay where you are, please. Sarah, stay there, please. Don't go upstairs.
What? Hey.
Eventually, Sarah and her crew make a discovery.
Okay.
Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
In the studio, the mood is rather solemn, and Michael Parkinson decides it's time to declare what he feels is a conclusion.
Very sadly, what we witnessed was a remarkable exposure of a hoax.
Let's not be too hasty.
Whilst Dr. Pascoe tries to provide solutions to what's been seen, the look on Parky's face tells you all you need to know that for him, his mind is made up. The distress the event has caused for the girls, Suzanne in particular, is equally clear to see.
It was what you wanted, wasn't it? We just gave you what you wanted.
Dr.
Again, this gives me remnants and reminds me of the story of the Enfield haunting. You know, and again, back to The Conjuring, when they realised they thought the girl was making it all up. And this is long before The Conjuring, 1992, you know.
Silvestri makes another appearance from New York, feeling rather smug with himself, something that is quite frankly a bit too much for Dr. Pascoe.
You played into their hands. Primetime TV, Alice in Wonderland couldn't take it anymore.
More calls are coming in, with Smithy and his operators struggling to keep up, and yet again, as more callers are heard live on air, Michael does his best to try and stave away potential panic that the viewers may be starting to feel.
Please, we don't want to give anybody sleepless nights. We don't want to start panic.
Later, we see some more pre-film footage, this time between Kim and Dr. Pascoe, and the young girl provides a rather vivid description of what Pipes supposedly looks like.
This guy's got all blood all over his eye and scratch coming out, and then...
Cutting back to the house, Sarah heads upstairs to see that the blood markings on Suzanne's face have reappeared, yet again, seemingly out of nowhere.
Get away from... No, Mum, they have to stay, they have to see everything.
Whilst the team on the ground attempt to help the child, Dr. Pascoe and Parky take a rather harrowing phone call, discussing a memory from the area's past in Victorian times. Mother Seddons...
She was a baby farmer, like a childminder. She used to take kids in, but she used to kill them.
Whilst the two discuss this, back at the house, efforts are being made to get the family members out, especially the children, though the two seem very resistant to leave.
Come on, downstairs. Just outside. Yourself, you know.
Sarah attempts to talk to her studio-based colleagues, seeking advice on what to do, before this happens.
There are incredible noises coming from the walls and from the ceiling. Ah!
But that's not all. Pipes once again makes himself heard, but through Suzanne.
I remember this bit. I can remember this bit. Me and my friend was watching this, and we just looked at each other, and the hair stood up at the back of my neck. I mean, I was absolutely terrified. Absolutely terrified watching this.
And to add to the tension, Kim has gone missing, Sarah now dropping any sort of professional pretense in her frantic search to find her.
Kim!
Once she does, Pipes continues to manipulate things around them, including the lights, whilst the sound of screeching cats are echoing all around the place.
Right, where's it coming from?
It's coming from the cupboard, and it's time to see just what's in there. As the door opens by itself, we get a split-second look at what's inside.
Mike!
But we're taken aside as Mike from the camera crew is knocked out by a falling mirror, injuring him in the process. Before Sarah even has time to get help for Mike, the cupboard door is slammed shut, Suzanne trapped inside, claiming terrible things are happening to her.
Mum, help me! Don't leave me, Mum!
The link to the house goes completely dead, and Craig Charles is left to fill time and desperately lighten the mood, amidst the huge uncertainty as to what's happened.
It's on, we are definitely on. Sorry, there seems to be a bit of a balls up in TV speak, I think we can say.
When the feed is restored, it seems that everything has quieted down in the house, and some normality is resumed, at a great relief to those in the studio. It's time for one last caller, and this one holds the most important information of all.
The lodger was their nephew, Raymond Tunstall. He used to tell me there was a woman on the inside of his body, taking over his thoughts and actions, making him do things he didn't want to do. He started to wear dresses.
The house was once occupied by a man, Raymond Tunstall, a man with several convictions against him, most of them involving children. Believing he was possessed by an evil woman, supposedly Mother Seddons, he took his own life in the cupboard under the stairs, which is where he supposedly is residing now, based on the experiences of the Early family. The caller also explains the origins of why Tunstall's face became so disfigured.
The cats were locked in, of course. They got hungry. They got to work. On his face.
Afterwards, after more disagreement between Pascoe and Parky, the doctor examines the screen in depth and realises the shocking truth.
This picture we're seeing now isn't live. This is just a cover.
A wind is blown throughout the studio, and Dr. Pascoe realises that Pipes has effectively won.
Created a seance. A massive seance.
As everyone attempts to evacuate the house, Sarah and her remaining crew member desperately try to rescue Suzanne from under the stairs. In what's been described as one of the most eerie sections of Ghostwatch, in complete darkness, the infrared camera is brought into play, as audiences held their breath as to what may be found.
It's okay for you. Is that okay?
Yeah, hold on.
Complete chaos begins to descend, not just on Foxhill Drive, but back at BBC Television Centre. Lights begin to burst, objects are blown off surfaces and smashed to pieces, and when the door finally opens for Sarah to rescue Suzanne, this happens.
Sarah?
Sarah is trapped, and the feed goes dead. In the studio, things are going from bad to worse. As everyone tries to evacuate, Michael Parkinson is left completely shocked and bemused.
When it was brought into the studio, that's when my friend and I realised this isn't real. This isn't real. This is a hoax. But the story's not over yet.
Relaying the events to the audiences at home as the power in the studio fails and the lights gradually fade until there is nothing left. After some light is restored, Michael wanders aimlessly around the studio, and to everyone's shock, this happens. Michael Parkinson, one of Britain's best-known and well-loved presenters, is possessed by pipes. And that's the lasting image you're left with as the credits begin to roll. The impact of Ghostwatch was immediate. Thousands of calls were placed to the BBC, many of them angry and outraged at how the Beeb, a trusted source of media for decades, could air something so horrific, so terrifying, and put its presenters and members of the public at risk. It all played out live on television, after all. Except it didn't.
It is, of course, Halloween, and if you were with us for our Ghost Watch earlier, may I reassure you that it was just a story, and all's well here at Television Centre.
You may have already been aware of this, but I deliberately kept this fact about Ghostwatch until now, to highlight its strengths, and just what kind of impact it made back in 1992. Not a single second of Ghostwatch was live. All of it was pre-recorded across the summer of 1992, the entire thing having been planned, scripted and shot just like the BBC would any other programme. Sarah Green wasn't trapped underneath a staircase, Michael Parkinson was not possessed by a ghost, and the entire story was a fabricated fiction, told in the style of a documentary programme, a field that the BBC typically excelled in. This goes into the choice of casting also, as mentioned before. Sarah Green had been a key feature on other Watch programmes, such as Hospital or Airport Watch, so having her be one of the key presenters here would lend an air of credibility and believability.
So basically they brought in these presenters because these presenters had good reputations. Sarah had been on other similar programmes connected to this programme, and they all had good reputations, so it was going to suck the people in, you know, and that's what made it so convincing for a lot of people. You actually need to see it in its entirety if you haven't seen it, folks, to realise actually how shocking it was. But it was afterwards problems started.
As to what Ghostwatch was trying to do, Michael Parkinson, known to practically everyone at the time, presented Ghostwatch as he would any other programme, not deviating too much at all from his regular style. The improvisational nature of the script helped massively, and the whole affair does have a whiff of feeling like it was filmed live, exactly as it was intended to feel. But despite this prowess of performance and structure to look like any other BBC programme, the backlash came, and it came fast.
Ghostwatch. My 11-year-old son was left shaking and physically sick after 10 minutes. I have a helpline for people in distress, and I received over 300 calls.
An arrogant and clumsy dissection of the paranormal, prejudiced for the trivial purpose of providing family entertainment. A sick joke.
Remember before how I said BBC bosses originally wanted to not broadcast this programme at all? Well,
Yes.
Director Leslie Manning revealed that just 2 days before transmission, they had to return to the editing suite to enact the compromise wanted by the bosses. That was that Ghostwatch begin with a series of very short credits, claiming who was starring, and most importantly, that the programme was written by an author, Stephen Volk. It was hoped by seeing these credits, and the Scream 1 ident that preceded them, that the fact Ghostwatch was a work of fiction would be clearly communicated. It seemed that method wasn't as effective as the BBC first thought. Given the slow burn nature of Ghostwatch, I can totally forgive viewers for getting the fact that this wasn't really a live program. Also, if you joined in late, you wouldn't have seen the credits at the beginning, so you could completely mistake what you're watching for something real and live.
Absolutely.
There was also the phone-in number, which at the time was a real number that many BBC programmes gave to viewers for phone-ins, including Saturday morning kids show Going Live. Those who rang on the night and got through would first hear a message saying that the show was fictional, so if you phoned up and heard that, then you can't complain that you thought it was real, I'm sorry. After that, they'd be given the chance to share their own ghost story. But the vast majority of callers just got the engaged tone and nothing more, as just...
Well, I just need to stop it there because that is a bit contradictory, because I actually heard another story. Apparently the other story is that when there was no one on the lines, that said there was Adam says there's operators on the line, but the story I heard that there wasn't operators on the line, it was just a recorded message saying, blah, 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 this is Ghostwatch, this is fabricated, it's entirely for your entertainment for Halloween. But the recorded message or the machine got jammed, so people were not getting anything, so people were being left thinking it was true. That's the other version. This is a different version. Has anybody heard anything about that? Put it in the comments and let me know.
5 phone operators were available, massively understaffed for the countless callers who tried to get through. In terms of the viewership, many were left distressed. Reportedly, even Michael Parkinson's elderly mother was one such concerned viewer, ringing the BBC to reassure her that her son was in fact not possessed by pipes. Various little announcements popped up on BBC One following transmission, reassuring viewers that everything was in fact alright. Sarah Green herself would appear on Children's BBC the following Monday to reassure any younger viewers that she wasn't in fact trapped in a cupboard under the stairs. There were many positive reactions to Ghostwatch, and we'll touch on that aspect of its legacy in just a moment. But unfortunately, there is one more final dark chapter that we do need to talk about. Many millions tuned into Ghostwatch, and one such viewer was Martin Denham, an 18-year-old factory worker from Nottingham. Suffering with learning difficulties and with a mental age substantially younger than his 18 years, Martin saw Ghostwatch and was horrified by what he saw. In his family home, a faulty central heating system caused the pipes within the house to knock, similar to some of the descriptions given in Ghostwatch. Unable to discern that the program was indeed fictional, Martin underwent severe distress, which unfortunately led to him taking his own life.
Very, very sad. Very, very sad. The guy heard the pipes knocking in the house due to the central heating, similar to what happened in Ghostwatch, and he took his own life. So, so sad.
Parents, April and Percy, blamed the BBC and Ghostwatch for effectively killing their son. The Broadcast Standards Commission, when tackling the case brought by the Denhams, gave this outlook. The BBC had a duty to do more than simply hint at the deception it was practicing on the audience. In Ghostwatch, there was a deliberate attempt to cultivate a sense of menace. They further stated that the presence in the programme of presenters familiar from children's programmes took some parents off guard in deciding whether their children could continue to view. Ultimately, the producers of the film issued an apology, although claimed that Ghostwatch was airing in a drama slot after the 9 PM watershed, and with the opening credits, made it clear that the programme was not real, as did much of the written publicity about the show seen in listings magazines such as the Radio Times.
So basically, people didn't read, if you want to put it like this, the small print. They're crafty because that's there, that kept them right. Nobody who gave off didn't have a leg to stand on because it was there in writing. Crafty.
Regardless of the arguments, the fact that a young person took their own life in response to a television programme is a tragedy, and arguably still represents the darkest element of Ghostwatch's legacy.
Absolutely. Poor Martin.
This house has been the focus of an astonishing barrage of supernatural activity.
For the remainder of the 90s, after the initial furore died down, The British public largely forgot or didn't even know about Ghostwatch if they didn't watch the broadcast. It wasn't released to VHS or DVD until the year 2002, a whole 10 years after its showing on BBC One. Ghostwatch was never repeated on BBC One either, a fact that remains true to this day over 30 years later. In fact, it has never seen a repeat on any UK-based television channel ever. It was only as Ghostwatch became available on home media and the rapid rise of the internet, with sites and forums dedicated to the programme, that re-established its impact and its legend. The fact that more than 30 years later, people still talk about Ghostwatch and the power that it had over its audience, and indeed audiences today, is remarkable. People watch it today knowing it's not real. I watched it and I know it's not real, but it just pulls you in. It makes you suspend that disbelief even just for a second, thanks to familiar faces, groundbreaking techniques, and a sense of realism that has gone on to become a mainstay in the horror genre, particularly in found footage type films such as the Blair Witch Project. Ghostwatch has inspired the horror genre in several different ways, and many prominent horror filmmakers and creatives will cite the programme as being an inspiration to them. Ultimately, Ghostwatch is a unique point in British TV history, attempting to blur the lines in between what's real and what's not, carried out by the professional and technical prowess of the BBC, made it all the more effective. It's an absolute must-watch, especially around Halloween. You can grab a copy on Blu-ray if you collect physical media, but it's also available on platforms like Shudder and even the Internet Archive. For a television programme made on a small budget back in 1992, Ghostwatch not only shows what kind of power you can achieve with such restrictions, but also how you can take the audience into a horrifying world that they believe, even for just a second, could be frighteningly real.
Okay, folks. Sorry it broke up there at the end. It's just I didn't realise my phone was still connected to the Bluetooth there, and it's connected to my earphones, so that's what affected the sound. So I do apologise about that. So what do you think? Here's a few questions for you. Number one, do you remember Ghostwatch? Do you remember watching Ghostwatch? What did you think at the time it was out? Did it scare you? Did you laugh at it? Did it shake you? Put it in the comments and let me know. I can remember seeing it and it scared the shit clean out of me. It really, really did. That poor guy who took his own life. It's so, so sad. You know, as Adam said there, it was never brought out on the media until recently. I don't want to buy it on Blu-ray. I don't want to buy it, especially after what happened. And another thing as well, you know, the BBC, they knew what they were doing. They were bringing squeaky clean, if you want to say, presenters in to draw the people in. There was people, as I said there, because there were majority of them were children's entertainment, let children watch. So what I want to know is, what do you think about Ghostwatch? Look, thanks very much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed that. I couldn't show the whole thing because, again, it's down to copyright with the BBC. It's like sacred scrolls, you know what I mean? But if you dare, it's there somewhere to watch. I'm sure you could download it or something. But once again, let me know what you think. Thanks for joining me today, folks. Once again, if you haven't done this, please consider doing so. Totally free, doesn't cost you a penny. And also, if you consider giving the wee video a thumbs up. Thanks for joining me in the Chatterhouse today. And I'll see you all very, very